Hello, everybody. Welcome. Talking Technophobia in film, I think is the title we're going with. Tonight we're talking about The Matrix. I don't know if I really want to go by Professor Movies or not, but...
Do it.
Okay, all right. I'm Professor Movies, because Jamie says so. Here's some of the things I hope we touch upon tonight. I really want us to discuss how the movie plays around with culture, technology, and what it says about film. I'll share my ideas with you, but I'm really interested in hearing what we have to say. This is the social media things. I don't know. If you're interested. Someone asked me last week if I was what I did, and I was like, oh, I'm a teacher. So maybe I didn't say that. Yeah, I teach in New York City. It's pretty cool. I teach high school. I love it. But I also love movies, and I love The Matrix. I decided we all kind of knew what The Matrix was about, so I would kind of speed through a lot of the beginning stuff. Everyone seen the film? Yes, show of hands?
Yes.
So Bella, you haven't seen the film?
You had one job.
All right, listen. We're gonna do a really good job of showing you some good parts of it tonight.
Sure. Okay.
Matrix did a lot of groundbreaking things. It talks a lot about philosophical themes. It makes them a little more accessible to wider audiences. It's an action movie. It's a science fiction movie. And it is a movie in a trend of movies that really says something about our society and deep underlying fears that exist in people, whether they articulate it or not. We were talking earlier before we started about what if the movie is just to make you think we're not really in the Matrix, and it's there's lots of films that play around with our idea of what is reality, and this is a film that really tries to bring that to the forefront. Other films that do this, I would say Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times is one of my favorite films. But you can go all the way back to Plato's Allegory of the Cave and looking at shadows on a wall, and that's there in The Matrix. So can we think of other films that are similar or fall into this tradition of us in our societies and what it's doing to us? Yeah, what do you think?
Another film that actually came out the same year as this one,
Yeah.
Blair Witch.
Blair Witch.
Because it had a lot of people at the time walking out going, holy crap, did somebody just die?
Yeah.
Was that real?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Blair Witch was when everything became wrestling, almost. You know what I mean? Where wrestling doesn't stop when the camera's cut, right? There are those characters, and Blair Witch, people were oh, the kids really died. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if anybody's ever seen this movie, but Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it sounds like, and actually, the
Sounds like a happy film. Okay.
The director got sent to court, and he had to prove that the actors were not dead.
Yeah.
In the court of law.
That's how I know about it. Him going to court. Yeah.
It was
when
crazy.
did it come out?
Oh my god.
It came out in the 80s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It had crazy practical effects
Ridiculous.
that nobody had ever done before.
That's cool.
Very nice.
War isn't even the word.
Other films, Network kind of does that for me. The Truman Show.
Oh, yeah.
Not a film, but Lost.
Lost. Yeah.
Do you humor that?
I liked Lost.
Did you like the ending of Lost?
Yeah. I mean, we'll do a night on Lost if you want. We can totally talk about it. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's do people like the end of The Sopranos? So I think to look purely at the technology in this film and say oh, it's everything's negative is selling it short. In a lot of ways, there's a much more complicated relationship we have with technology that's being depicted, and its effects on us. And technology is in us in this movie. It's become so much part of our lives, and you can't remove it. I'm sure we'll talk a lot philosophically, but that's one of the things that I was saying earlier to someone. Are the robots, are the machines the good guys? Did they save the world and the planet and become top of the food chain? And what they did to us was just subjugate us and we do to cattle and stuff. And I'm not saying I root for them, but there is like the morality of it is a little fuzzy. So that's kind of along the lines what I think. And then one of the first things I'd like us to talk about is the science and technology of this film, because I think it is a paradoxical relationship. So I'm going to show you 2 clips and we can talk about technology. Always do that. Okay. Man versus technology is a pretty clear conflict. I think the way the machines are depicted is very alien and removed from us, and yet it's similar to Frankenstein, where this is something humanity has birthed and brought upon themselves. But those scenes really do show that there's 2 sides to the technology problem here. Let's brainstorm some things that are negative, bad about technology in this movie, hurt us in the film. What do we think? Can anybody? You can use the clips or the images or any other things in the film, yeah.
Well, they kind of take control over our lives when they created the Matrix.
Very good, like they enslaved us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's it?
They're not particularly, there's no communication between them.
Mm-hmm.
They're completely other.
Yeah.
There's no way to talk to a machine because it's so alien from, I mean, aside from creating it, you created something so far apart from us that it doesn't recognize us as human. There's a
Yeah.
whole scene about that, I think, where he's like, you're more like a virus than a human. So it's like it jumped to the next level.
Yeah.
And now that's like, it got so far ahead that they can't talk anymore.
Okay, right, like the
Like,
failure
you
of
can't
communication.
communicate with the robots that laser you in the face. It's not, they're not trying to talk.
Yeah, there's
Right, where's the mouth?
no
Where's the
interface.
ears?
That's yeah, that's right.
I like that.
There was also another scene where they explained that they used the humans as fuel for the machines. So they basically just turned us, like, we used them as cattle, and then they flipped it back around on us.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
I feel like, not sure if it's, I guess it would still be negative, but like, in order for them to still kind of interact, they still need to go into the Matrix. So they're still dependent on some of the technology, even just their ship and everything that they use and stuff. So it's kind of like they're fighting it, but they're still using it.
Yeah, let's look at the other side of the coin and think about how technology helps or what the humans use it for, because the Nebuchadnezzar is a great example. It's like this flying hovercraft they use in the sewers, and it is a super advanced piece of technology. What else? Yeah.
I mean, maybe a not so popular opinion is the Matrix itself.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the way people live outside of it. I mean, yeah, they have autonomy, in like that real sense, but I mean, they're basically running around eating slop like that.
That's
What?
science creative. They have food because of science.
Right.
Drool. Yeah.
Right, they like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're running around on cold ships. Everything's gray. Everything's like, you know what I mean? Like I remember like the first time I watched that movie and I was just like, my God, these people are miserable. like for real.
And we see that with Cypher. Like that's his whole point. He's like, if Morpheus really told us the truth about like how terrible this is, none of us would have taken it.
And I was just like, yo. And I was like, I freaking love steak. Like something as simple, like there are no creature comforts outside of the Matrix. They don't exist.
Yeah, no, ignorance is bliss, and there's a lot of people who are living perfectly happy lives, yeah.
I loved how she was able to learn how to fly a helicopter in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That was dope.
I wish we had something like that.
That's the future of education, I feel like. We're headed there. It's going to take 50 years, but that's
Get a PDF.
technology directly to your brain, how you're going to learn. It's going to be YouTube or something, but like,
To throw it back
Yeah.
to Jurassic
Google's
Park,
gonna
you'll be
patent it.
extinct.
yeah. No. Oh, man. Again, a shameless plug, right? I totally wrote a graphic novel about that very idea. We can talk more if you want.
I also think it's interesting that all the people who get out of it are the ones who are tech savvy, the hackers and all that stuff too.
Yeah,
Oh, my daughter, when she came through, I'm sorry, just a
please.
She walked through the room as I was watching. She goes, "Oh, thank God for nerds," because you know what? She's right. Because anybody who knows all of this IT, I mean, we should be going like this to them. You know,
And that's how.
they're the cool kids now.
Yeah, you're right, and Neo made it cool. Neo is this like hacker at a time when most of us are using dial-up internet, and there's something alluring. He's anti-establishment. He's counterculture, and also like the technical jobs. These technicians or hackers, right, are like the jobs of the future. They're the ones that are gonna not be outsourced to the machines eventually, until the singularity. The learning totally is a positive example. The EMP, all right, is this piece of technology, their greatest weapon against the machines, and it's technology that wipes out the technology.
Also, it wasn't
Yeah.
invented a long time ago.
The EMP.
Yeah,
Wasn't
it's
it?
old. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an old piece of technology that like Phil will.
Mm-hmm.
It's our biggest fear today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Literally.
Yeah, what would
an
happen?
EMP, like
It'll put us
large
back
scale
in the dark
EMP
ages.
would
LMC would close down, yeah.
What is it?
Yes.
Escape from LA. That's what Pliskin does at the end. And he just walks away. I'm like, oh, that would be frightening.
But
Yeah.
like there was a lot of like controversy that I always noticed where it was like it said like it's an EMP.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I watched this movie I was like 7, so I had no idea what an EMP was. And they explained because nobody else had any idea what the EMP was during this time. So they explained that the EMP disables all the electronics. And then I kept thinking to myself, shouldn't it disable itself?
Mm-hmm.
But what they keep doing, like in other movies, is they just rearm it and switch it on again, and then it goes again.
Sure.
But it should like kind of counteract itself.
Well, yeah, and I don't know. Maybe they have more than one.
They shut down the ship.
They have to shut down the ship, but they can then turn the ship back on.
Yeah.
You know, so like I suspend disbelief enough.
EMP just
it's different.
But yeah, it's this like destructive force, and it's a danger to them as
no,
well.
it cuts away.
Yeah, we don't know they turned the ship back
Yeah, I think
on
it kills their
afterwards,
ship.
plus
They're
the ship got
flying.
The
destroyed.
whole ship is a fairy.
Oh, okay, all
Because,
right,
like, right
fair
after
enough. The
that,
movie ends. You're right.
Yeah,
Done.
it cuts.
Not
Fast forward
The
to
ship is a
his
canal.
monologue.
Yeah.
But could I just
Yeah.
point out one thing? Like
Please.
when the agent explaining to Morpheus,
Yeah.
like why they designed it and all that stuff. He said they chose like 1999 or
Yeah.
whatever because it's like this golden age in your technology thing. And I'm like, watching it now,
Right.
I'm like, missed a few years.
Should have said it a little
But
further out.
outside of that, most of it still seems to work. It's
Mhm.
it's not so dated in that
Sure.
aspect, other than obviously the phone lines. Kind
Yeah. They cut the hard line, and like no one
But-
uses it.
Yeah.
Well, it actually kind of makes sense
But it
because
makes sense.
you needed the dial tone from a landline to get onto a computer during that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, taking away the dial tone from that computer, you have no dial up, so then your computer turns off.
Mm-hmm.
You have no access. Now, like, it kind of makes sense that you have to pick up a landline in the Matrix to get out,
Right.
because
Because it's almost like you use a landline to connect to a like magical dream world where everybody else is there too, and you like use away messages and instant messenger.
But I mean, maybe for the sake
Yeah.
of making the film,
Yeah.
like that hard line was just great for just
Mm-hmm.
being able to create those tense moments. Because like if you made it in 2019, right?
Right.
And everybody had a cell phone and you could just get out of the matrix through your iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
There wouldn't be that. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, you're
that
right.
It would
Suspense.
have to be something different.
Right.
There need to be another
Like
obstacle.
the crosswalk button.
Right.
Oh, I've got no data. What's going
There you
on?
go, yeah.
Yeah.
Weird,
So
right?
the landline is kind of special in 1999, though.
Yeah.
Because now, with everything very much connected, it would be very difficult to create a plausible simulation where
Mhm.
somebody in China can interact with somebody in New York without simulating the lags, letting them like magically jump their bodies
Sure.
here and there.
Uh-huh.
In 1999, the landline would be the only part of the simulation that actually has to deal with physics at such a great distance. So if you're
I feel like that makes this movie more
trying
frightening.
to put a hard sci-fi explanation of
Yeah.
why the landlines were special, it's because it's a particularly difficult thing to simulate, especially with the bodies in the capsules not necessarily being co-located.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man, maybe we are in the Matrix. You've convinced me. Greg, did you want to say
No,
something?
I was just thinking like the landlines are in the Matrix, though.
Yeah, it's how they exit or
they don't really
enter
exist.
via
Right, but
that.
the
Yeah,
landlines,
landlines.
they
There is no
communicate with somebody
landline.
else.
Yeah, they
And
would.
that's that's what's special about the people
Okay.
in the pods.
Because their distance is apart. Yeah.
But the thing is that like new kids these days,
Mm-hmm.
they don't know how to use a landline. They don't have landlines.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's for a reason.
Yeah, because we're in the Matrix.
Yeah.
They took it away. They took
I feel
ours away.
like the
They
two of
figured
you
it
are
out.
trying to convince
They
us
gotta
that
keep
we're in the
us
Matrix
figured out.
tonight. Okay.
Anytime we get close, they shut off our Wi-Fi.
Right. I feel like we should take a look at Agent Smith for a little bit.
The future is our time.
Here it's our time.
To die.
I love.
He
sounds
is the
so,
best.
He sounds so robotic.
I didn't
when
even
Yeah.
really
he's
watch
talking
this stuff
to
and
me.
I
Oh,
don't
you
like
think
who's-
so?
what's
I
his
think
name?
it's the
I
opposite.
think he sounds robotic.
No, you know what's
You-
funny? I think Morpheus
Mhm.
talks
He's
in the
like
most
a
robotic
pretty
monotone
recognizable.
cadence through the whole movie.
Yeah.
So to
But
speak.
that speech
Yeah.
is the most human,
Yes.
like
Really?
emotional, honest,
I
like
must get
between
out of here.
between
I
Neo
must
going, "What?
Mm-hmm.
I know kung fu," and like Morpheus going, "He's beginning to believe." Like that whole thing was just like, I'm just sick of you guys
Yeah.
and your crap, and I'm better than this.
Yeah.
Like that's basically what he's saying. Like because like this whole thing is about closed loops,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Like in the real world, in that there is no sunlight, there is no nighttime,
Right.
there's no sense of anything. But like in the Matrix, that's all there is. It's just like you wake up, you go to sleep, and everything is just essentially provided for you.
Mhm.
And he's stuck watching these cows
Mm-hmm.
walk through, you know, just walk through the pens, and he's just like, I'm better than this.
Yeah, because it's almost
I
like
know there's something else.
it's almost like they're the cow, like Neo, Morpheus. They're the cows that like are walking, trying to walk into the barbed wire fence, and
Yeah.
Smith's job is the one who has to like take them out of the barbed wire
Yeah,
fence.
he's like, not for you, but
Right.
then he's still looking at them. He's like, why isn't it for me too?
Mm-hmm.
But then
Yeah.
what is everyone else doing?
Everybody else
Trying to
just
walk
minding
into
their own
the
business in
fence?
the pasture.
No, everyone else
Why
just
is it-
doing normal cow stuff, eating the
Cow
grass.
stuff.
I think
Okay.
what's weird about that scene though is he takes his earpiece out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he takes his earpiece out, I don't think he's not supposed to like his job.
Yeah, there's a
Yes.
choice.
Yeah.
And
There's a
I don't think he
choice,
wants them to
definitely.
know how much he doesn't like his job. I mean, that comes out in the second or third movies. I think,
Right.
A little bit more, but in the first movie, that's the only time when you realize that he's not. He's like becoming
There's a
more sentient than
plurality
everything else.
so that there's more than one AI, and they clearly don't agree.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
It's like some of us, he's like we've clearly like he's like there's clearly like a council of them,
Mm-hmm.
and like they've clearly had to like do it multiple times to get it right.
Right.
And he's even still like we can go further.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of crazy.
One thing I don't understand is why the AI doesn't try to find a way to clear the sky so that they can run on solar power again.
Don't
Well,
need
that's
them.
probably his plan.
Yeah.
You know what I
But,
mean?
The like human ingenuity, like our problem-solving ability, is usually like what sets us apart from the monsters in movies, right? Like the raptors are dangerous and scary in Jurassic Park because they can learn to open doors. The machines in this film also, right, adapt. We scorch the sky, block out the sun, and they turn us into batteries. So they probably could figure something out to clear it, but this is how they've subjugated us, and why bother? This is keeping us down, and that's really the problem. Again, I don't think the machines are the good guys, but I took a step back when I watched it recently, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. It resonates a little bit where it's like these are things we are cognizant of in our culture that we are doing to our planet.
We became fossil fuel.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, we need solar power again. He's like, to hell with this.
If you really want the machines to be the good guys, humans are like an incredibly inefficient source of energy.
Yeah.
They use some kind of
Yes.
fusion, though. That's
Correct.
again.
So
That's
why
the
do
loophole.
They keep people around if not just to preserve humanity?
Right.
If you watch the two other movies,
Because
they keep around Zion.
Yeah.
They have this sort of pet humanity that they have saved even after we ruined the skies.
right. So why do they do that? Is
We already
it
have
because they
fusion,
don't want to
which is-
make a species extinct? Because that's what we were doing. They want to be
Does-
better than us.
If they really
You
want us
know?
as batteries or as microprocessors or whatever,
Yeah.
they could have had us in like Dante's Infernal style of reality.
Right.
Instead, they make something that they consider very livable.
Right. Well, they make paradise first, you know, and like
That way
we're
we don't
flawed.
have to escape.
Right.
That's why they do it that way.
Or take it down.
And we do it anyway.
The thing
Poor pup.
the thing
Yeah.
that happened when I first saw that scene, everybody, like, you see that scene and he gets so up close and personal, and you get like some people get scared. Like he's like, and then the fight scenes and everything. And before I had watched this movie, I had watched The Lord of the Rings. So
To the two towers.
so
things,
yeah, so
yes.
whenever I see this guy and
Yeah.
I was watching the movie, and whenever I do that and he's being really scary, I just think of him wearing that elf getup and saying all of this stuff, and like holding a sword and just like I laugh
Yeah.
because of how like goofy it would be, but at the same time, he like it's crazy, like it's intense, and he gets inside your head. He like
You, the audience, has
yeah,
had.
his entire virus speech. Like, nobody has ever done that before. Like,
Okay.
that was brand new, and people thought about it. People have thought about it on like talk shows and stuff, but nobody's ever outright said humanity is a virus.
I have.
That's actually something like that's.
But you learned it from the movie.
But like there is an idea that keeps coming back in these movies, like there's too many people, right? Like that, like there's too many people, there's too many of us, there isn't enough to go around.
And humanity isn't absolutely unique in that regard. Though.
Right.
Like Australia is covered in rabbits.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Those damn rabbits.
The rabbits,
No,
the rabbits were brought by humans.
there are far too many fish in the sea.
No.
Not anymore.
That's the opposite.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, one thing that I found, like that I keep trying to figure out, is at what point do the robots learn pettiness?
Yeah.
Because that scene is petty. Like when he
Very
rubbed Morpheus's sweaty head
Yeah.
and then threw it back, literally threw it back in his face. I'm
No,
like,
he shoved it into his
yes,
face.
he shoved. Thank you. He shoved it into
Yeah,
his
like
face. I'm
here,
like,
smell.
that is like
Sweaty bald head.
that's more than like that's like sadistic prison guard. That's you know what I'm saying? Like that's like at what point does a robot jump like just efficient protocol just to take the time to go, you stink.
That's when it turns from the Matrix into Full Metal Jacket.
Well, it's still not like again. The machines are like the movie does not depict depict them as superior to us. Like Smith needs Morpheus's help, right? Like he needs like there's still a dependence. We need you for something. We need you for the batteries. You know? Yeah.
Sorry, that whole scene, I mean, you thought that. I was just thinking about how smell is considered a really strong conjurer of memories. And I guess in some way he symbolizes something that has seen history repeat itself, and he's just tired of the smell.
Yeah.
And they're looking for something more, but they don't know what it is or how to attain it. But they're not bothered with trying to figure out what that is. They have people probably trying to figure out what that is.
Also, the fact of the Matrix that it simulates the smell,
Yeah.
Sure.
and that
like,
you never
exactly.
like and that like
I think that's a pretty
he doesn't know what it's
thing,
like
right?
to
And-
smell.
Yeah, but he
Right.
mentions
You've
never
never
used
used
your
the way
eye
it's the
throws it in his face.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, and I think the machines are corruptible. They get greedy. Like the second film, we see the Merovingian, right? Like they're not like morally good. Like definitely, and like it's like father like son, right? They learn from watching us. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that like they are an AI created by humans, so if anything,
Yeah.
we taught them that.
Yeah.
That
And they're in our reality, you know, and that's how they choose to interact with us. Even the third film, the baby face, you know, at the very end, you know, like they keep taking our forms, you know.
Just hit
Greatest
the
form of
reset hard
flattery.
drive button.
Yeah.
Or unplug and
Yeah.
Turn it off and on again.
But so that reminds me of like
Blow
how
inside the cartridge.
Did you clear the cache?
they take out stuff because we created them.
Uh-huh.
Reminds me of a book called Slave, and so it's about far into the future where we've created an AI, but we've programmed it so that it cannot be bad, so that like it's programmed so that it has to do the best for humanity as it can.
iRobot? Is that what you said?
No, what was it?
AI.
Yeah, but what was the name of it?
Scythe.
Scythe?
Because
Yeah.
Yeah. So who is it? Asimov did the 3 laws of robotics,
Yeah.
and it's like you'll preserve yourself, but you can't harm people. And there's a third.
No, it's like can't harm
Yeah.
a person.
Can't harm a
That's
person.
number one.
Can't harm
You
yourself or something, right?
No, you have to do what a person.
Okay.
You have to do what a person tells you as long as it doesn't interfere with law number 1,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can't allow yourself to come to harm as long as it doesn't interfere with the first 2.
Okay, yeah. So that is like used pretty consistently, right? Usually when dealing with robots. It becomes problematic when robots no longer follow those rules because they can make choices and think for themselves and are self-aware. Like a dog looks in the mirror and thinks it's another dog. We look in the mirror and we know that's our reflection. You know, and that's usually the point, right? Where technology gets scary.
Well, so other than the humans that are trying to wreck the shiz up,
Yeah.
where is there ever an example of the machines treating the humans poorly outside of keeping them alive?
You know, enslaving.
What do you think?
And
Turning them into batteries? What do we? Is this humane?
So
Well, I mean,
outside,
Well,
that-
that's the point.
Well, is Morpheus
In that movie,
I have a question.
Yes, miss.
What's wrong with
So then he was treating him.
I don't know if you're gonna bring this up later, but what's wrong with being in the pod and being in the Matrix?
That's what I said.
Well, okay, so what's scary about that? Yeah,
I'm really
what's
mad
scary?
at Morpheus 'cause I do not think he does a good job explaining what the difference between the Matrix and then the real world is. Like you
Why
said, there
are
are
you
no
dragging
comforts
me?
in the real world.
Yeah.
It's like
It's-
I was like, no, I don't feel like
Well,
you
if there's no
explained it
comforts
well
in the real
enough.
world, then why do I wanna be
wanted
there?
to be able to go back,
Yeah.
or I think in
What
an
is
ideal
real?
world, I want the
We'll get
ability to jack in when I want to and go back.
You want to Ready Player One it, the Matrix.
Possibly, maybe that's what we're doing now, but yes.
You need a purple
I
pill.
want
Yeah, purple pill.
Right.
Take both.
No, I mean to piggyback off of that. What if
Those
the
are highly
Matrix
addictive.
is just our reward
Right.
for for just reaching a point in technology where it's like you get to live, everybody gets to just live a normalized life. Like let's say we weren't enslaved by our machines, right?
Yeah.
We just created this thing where it was like, listen, you get to live this normal, like the good place, right? Like you get to have this essentially normalized version of what you feel like is this thing, and your body sustains the mechanism that allows you to live in that thing.
I think the problem is free will and knowledge, though, not knowing it's happening to you. Because if I was told right now about the Matrix, I'd be so mad.
But if I also
I'd
told you
continue.
that the
I should stay here.
alternative was
care if I'm
a gray like thermal shirt with some holes in it, some gruel every day, and running from your life for your
living
life,
in Mad Max.
what would
Yeah.
you like?
but now she has the choice to
Yeah.
say whether she wants it or not.
Yeah.
Shiny and chrome.
And the fact that they are denied the choice is what I think a lot of the humans in the movie are mad about. Because Neo and the rest of the gang, like, they're going into the Matrix, so like they're using it. They're like obviously some of them are going on dates with the woman in the red dress. like they're using it for pleasure and entertainment in addition to saving humanity. You know, they're getting cool outfits.
But don't they
Yeah.
kind of gloss over it a little bit, but he says, like, we tried to make it perfect and it didn't work, which
Yeah.
means you have to assume that all these people that are living a better life in the blue pill world are not.
Rental
Right.
servers.
I mean, by definition, they're not. It can't be
they messed
perfect.
up.
I mean, look at the world now. If everybody's happy with the way it is,
Then
which they're not, there are a lot of people who are unhappy with the world. A lot of people are happy with the world. There's good and bad.
Right.
It's average.
Yeah.
It's
If you
not
take
like
like
good.
a pure philosophical utility standpoint on this, the world that the real world can't sustain nearly as many people as the Matrix world can. So even if you have, say, a couple thousand people wandering the wastelands of shattered America,
Yeah.
and they're having a grand old time.
Yeah.
In the Matrix, you've got billions of people having pretty darn good times. So which is more valuable?
And like you said, it didn't work with the pure happiness. It's like we as humans need that kind of misery to kind of
Right.
balance ourselves out. Otherwise, it just
Well,
You can't
Nothing.
appreciate happiness without the bad stuff.
absolutely, yin and yang, balance. You won't know happiness without having, the bad stuff. You won't know day without night, good without evil. And that duality is here in the film throughout, like Neo and Mr. Anderson. Like there's two people, one person. So yeah, definitely. Okay, let's talk about what we're talking about. He wants out.
Yeah, he does. And then he vomits.
Everybody pops.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know. Do you
falls
think he
in.
wants out?
Oh, he
And
definitely
I'm not
does.
sure.
No, he definitely wants to stay
we
in.
need a little bit more
Not,
convincing.
not once
Put him
he-
back in.
Not once he
There is
leaves
kung
Are we gonna
fu.
do you think that's area
Oh,
breathing?
there is no spoon.
You should put that.
Do you think my being stronger or
What?
faster?
Watching that clip, I thought of like ton of good quotes that would have made better titles for this one. But which one would be a good?
There is no spoon.
Oh, well, yeah. Everyone knows
No,
that.
do you think
But
I'm
does-
stronger or faster has anything to do with my muscles in this
Yeah.
place?
That's good too.
Long pause. Do you think that's area breathing?
Oof. And then he makes that face where he's like, yeah.
I do think it too.
So, like, are we okay with the reality of being picked like fruit? And second, the Wachowskis have like a trope of forced cannibalism in their films. The only other example, it's in like Soylent Green is people, gets yelled in Cloud Atlas, but also the waitress in Cloud Atlas get fed back to the waitresses.
Fair enough.
It happens, I don't know, I see it a lot in their works. And I don't, Speed Racer, I'll get back to you on. But it might be there too.
Speed Racer, the fuel for the cars.
Sure, it's tasty.
Homo sapiens, like the like wise man, that pursuit of knowledge, that knowing the truth, is like implied at least to be a part of like all of us.
But then what is the truth?
And what is the truth is what I want us to
And then
talk
when
about.
Man knows
Chimpanzees.
nothing then.
Are you
Yeah,
You alright?
because these boys are trying to convince us we are in the Matrix.
You are.
And how do you know they're not right?
For real.
Well, how, like,
Well, that's the entire thing. Is that
I don't know. I could be
prove us
Agent
wrong.
Smith.
Yeah.
Like,
How do you prove
there's
us wrong?
How do you know you're not a brain in a jar,
Well, I mean-
right?
I mean, yeah, because it's got like a
that scene, like when I watched it again recently and again now, I mean, how do they know they're not in the Matrix too?
Right.
It's not possible to know you're in a Matrix ever.
Yeah.
You can't have a scene where you sit outside the Matrix and say, that's what's in the Matrix and I'm outside of it.
Right.
That's not even theoretically possible. You
And
can't know you're in a Matrix. They could be in the Matrix too, and the Matrix could just be bigger.
right, because outside of every
Simulation
It's a quote the
inside
great
a
actor Keanu
simulation.
Reeves.
Has anyone seen Rick and Morty?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That episode.
Yes.
It's just slavery with
but
It's the steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the scammers.
but that idea is
we're like a cartoon with
but that idea is at the
found.
found
That's the
guys.
That's yeah.
That idea is at the foundation of this film too, and gets lost somewhere in the sequels. Outside of every system of control is just a larger system of control. There is no defeating the system. There is no escape. Right? The theory that Zion is just still in the Matrix and it's another right, like isn't in the movie, but like would have made better sense.
It's in a book.
Yeah.
In the movie.
Yeah.
When he gets the drugs out in the first scene.
Some simulacra and simulation, right?
That book is actually about. That's a book about the
Yeah.
Matrix.
Yeah, and a simulacrum is a copy of a copy. You keep making that copy so many times that it no longer resembles the original. And photocopies, right? Scanning documents. Every time you do it, it adds and removes something. It loses something of the essence. And humans in the Matrix are rinsed and repeated in a karmic cycle. So you got to think we're gaining and losing things. The machines, Smith.
Eventually, we're not even human.
Right. Well, what's the difference? Because Smith jumps bodies in the second one. Like, why? What's the difference? Right? He's a consciousness in a meat sack, just like Neo was a consciousness in the Matrix, and then gets his meat sack. You know, and yeah, I don't know. That's a gross way to describe us, I guess.
Like
But
similar to like what's the difference between reality and
Why is
this.
the
right.
Yeah.
Do your dreams not count?
Yeah.
Right?
It's
Or
just a signal.
is that not life too? I don't know. How do we know what we know? How do we know it's real? Like Sibylla brought up.
Yeah, and it's like a very long-lasting, eerie feel that you'll never know.
Yeah, and I think that is a underlying, I don't know, fear in a lot of people, if not all of us. You know, does life matter? Why do we suffer? Is this real? Am I secretly on a TV show? Like, are things that people grapple
They're
with.
filming us. No.
No, but they actually are filming.
Yeah, I
They
know.
are.
He just broke the fourth wall, everyone. That's our first one. Okay.
Why is the thing gray?
I Google image search all of this, so I liked it, and it was kind of
Image searching
noir.
is good.
And I thought it would draw the human eye to it and bring someone to ask that question, like, why is it gray? But
I
also,
think gray because gray.
finding gifs. I could not find one of Smith blowing up, and I really wanted that. Like Neo jumping into him and him blowing up, and I just Google image search was not doing it for me the other day.
How does technology play into the myth behind the one also?
Yeah.
Because like, is this movie just a modern version of the same old story of the one, the savior?
Right.
The cross literally explodes from his chest in the third movie. I
That's
believe.
true.
Wait, what?
The
All
third-
right, there's a
they
lot of
drop
like
all
Jesus
pretense of
imagery.
subtlety.
But
And
again-
as the thing
Because
goes
right in the
on.
beginning, before the Matrix is even known, the guy is like, "Oh, you're my savior. You know, my one."
My
true
one
whatever."
personal
Marcus is a
Jesus
big,
Christ.
like cult figure, like he's hunting for his Messiah.
Right. I think the Judeo-Christian like stuff is what makes that the deeper philosophical stuff more accessible, right? Because it's not really faith in God or gods, right? It's faith in us. It's faith in what we can do and how we can fix this, save ourselves, overcome it, outsmart it. Yeah.
I mean, what you asked, I don't think it was really covered in this one so much as the sequels, because I think it ends up being essentially the singularity, right? Because Neo, doesn't he basically end up RC controlling the squids at the end? And right?
Maybe.
And then they
stop.
and then they carry him off
It's possible,
into
yeah.
like the hub of their network, right? Like he basically finds that room. I mean, because I haven't watched the sequels because they're not as good, but like there he shows up in that room with all the TV screens, and he's basically he's given the keys to the car, and then like there's this war going on out in the real world where the machines are finally like, to hell with this, we're gonna destroy this last little remnant of human resistance, because Smith is like, we gotta move on to another business model.
Right, and they're all Smith now, more or less, in the Matrix, and it's going to spread out to the rest of the machines.
And he's just like, oh, okay, I got this. And he basically, my theory is because they carry his lifeless body off, I just assume that he implanted his consciousness into the code and just rewrote it.
Yeah, and that's like originally in the second one what's supposed to happen. He's supposed to go into the source and they're going to assimilate his code into it. I don't know. The Neo gets resurrected by the redemptive power of love in the end of this movie, and I really think the trilogy as a whole is about robots learning to love. Right? Cookies need love just like everything does. Both the character of Sati and then later Smith say that, and she's taken the train into the Matrix. I really think robots learning to love on some level
Also,
is what's going on in trilogy-wise.
Agent Smith is the one.
I've seen that video on YouTube as well. I mean, it's cool, and maybe.
Oh yeah, because the one was supposed to be born inside of it, right? Morpheus said that to Neo, right? He was like, there was a man.
He's got the
born
power
inside.
to change it and all this other stuff, but it's like the Lego movie, right? Where you tell him he's the special, so he believes he's the special, and anyone can be the special.
I think this kind of highlights, and these movies really highlight, trying to make philosophy accessible. Like the first movie does a pretty good job. Hey, there's an idea that you're living in a simulation.
Right.
If you try to extrapolate that to, well, are we living in a simulation, and try to answer the question in 2 more movies, you're not going to get there.
Right.
Because nobody got there in the last 3,000 years.
Sure.
Since they've been starting to try to figure this out. It's not like an easy concept to get around, and it starts to get distracted. This movie just presents the question.
Yeah.
And then leaves it at the end.
Right,
That's
and then
the
it's
end.
just plot,
That's why it's a
inner
good movie
world
compared
kind
to
of
the
thing,
second and
yeah.
third movie. Because the second and third movie, I think, try to answer it a little bit. You're like, good luck.
Right. A lot of world building
There's
going on.
also the entire, like, I don't know if you've heard of the door paradox.
What's that?
Basically, there are these 2 doors. One of them's lying, and one of them's telling the truth.
Oh, sure, yeah.
One says you can go through me and I'm safe, and the other one is lying.
Mm-hmm.
And like the entire thing is that the AI is making itself. It's updating itself and making itself more human.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to replicate humans to their best ability.
Right.
Even though they say that humans are a cancer, a disease.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, as you see in Agent Smith and everything else, they're turning themselves into humans.
In the Matrix, right?
Yes.
Like outside the Matrix, though, they're flying squid insect monster things. There's that the duality with the machines, right? In the Matrix, you're right. They look just like us. They can be any of us. The agents can jump into you or me, and take control. If you're not with us, you're with them. You're part of the system. My phone just buzzed.
And do we know that the squid things are actually weapons inherently? Or they could just be like maintenance in there. What's around?
Sure.
I'm sure the AI feels that way.
Right. Right. It's the Matrix is a zoo.
And from our perspective, they're sort of designed to evoke like our fears of a submarine in the depths being attacked by like a sea monster.
Yeah. It's got all these arms. It's listening to you. What's that?
I was talking about like deep you don't know. We only know like a small percentage of the ocean.
Sure.
And like we don't know actually at all of what's down there.
Yeah, we know like 15% of what's in the ocean.
Right.
But
Just
like
like
we're exploring like
Absolutely
our
nothing
entire
else.
like we're exploring our galaxy and we know everything about Jupiter's 13th moon.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know what's at the bottom of our own oceans.
Right. Yeah, and that's what makes them scary, because people aren't really afraid of the dark. They're afraid of what might be in the dark that they can't see.
Yeah.
And like same thing with the ocean. We're afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of taking risks.
Always something in the, like right next to you.
Sure. Okay. You want to talk about an easy topic then? Fate and choice? Since we're saying, I'm hearing...
More easy than...
I heard ideas around the idea that like humans needed choices. That's why we didn't have like the perfect utopia. We rejected it. You have to present them with a choice. The game is kind of rigged, right? It's a choice that they've written the two choices. They present Neo in the second movie with, you're gonna go through this door, you're gonna go out, and you're gonna die. So let's talk about this next. And there's what's that other internet theory where it's like the cookie she gives him is like an internet cookie, and that's what like downloads, the1.exe.
But so that's sort of like the base thing sort of reminds me of like created reality, where like if you didn't hear the prophecy, would the if like the prophecy did not exist in the first place, would the prophecy have even? Would the events in the prophecy even, like, happen?
Sure. Yeah, like, if you don't tell Macbeth he's gonna be king one day, does he then go and try to kill the king or not,
Or, like, I forgot what book it was, but, like, there's two brothers, and so there's a prophecy that one is going to find a living wife and kill the other brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, but, like, if they hadn't heard the prophecy, then, like, they probably wouldn't have killed.
Right. It's that idea that when you release or introduce information from the future, right, it's going to change things. The Oracle telling Neo, but you're going to have to make a choice, like, is that really giving him a choice or not? Is that self-fulfilling prophecy coming through?
With, like, King Arthur, it's the entire thing where there could be the universe where he never finds the sword in the stone, and none of that ever happens. But there's also the universe where he tries and he fails.
Sure.
And it doesn't come out.
And
none of it ever happens. But like there's just all the different possibilities. And the fact that the computers know that there are different possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have to run the different scenarios.
I have to wonder what would have happened if he had said to the Oracle that he was the one, because she doesn't tell him.
Yeah.
She asks him to give the answer. So what if he had said yes? Then what would have happened?
Then she might have said, yes, you are the one.
Maybe she would have said, no, you're not, and he still would have had to learn to fulfill his destiny himself.
She kind of like sets him up to doubt himself, though, right? She's like, so what do you think? And he's like, honestly, I'm not sure. And she's like, you gotta know yourself, Neo, now. Are you the one or not? Like she's introduced that doubt, and that self-doubt is a part of like the human condition.
Well, she introduces the doubt with the vase.
As well, yeah. What's really gonna bake your noodle is, would you have knocked it over, had I not said it? And that's kind of what they were saying. Yeah. All right, go ahead. 1 and 2.
Out of curiosity, I didn't really watch the second and third one too closely.
I feel like that's fine.
Remember, but do they explain at some point like how she has these prophecies? Because
not really.
Like I don't understand. Is she part of the Matrix, or is she someone outside?
So like,
She's an AI
there is no real random function. You got to script random, right? So like Neo is the culmination of all the remainders, right? And she's the program giving the script to the one character, right? Like guiding him along the way so that he completes his loop, you know, is how I took it. But then she, like Smith, wants more, right? And decides we're gonna play a dangerous game, as the architect says in the end of the third one. And maybe like, I don't know. Yeah. Well, what do you guys think about that?
Well,
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, you kind of beat me to it in
Yeah.
the sense that, like, if you think of all of those, or like if you think of it sort of like a video game, like, you know what an NPC is, a non-player character, right? Like, they exist for a specific reason, whether it's to give you a quest, or to give you some sort of like little patch of story to move the plot along. Like, if you think of like them as programs, like, you know, very specific functionality things.
Right.
Smith is, you know, he's the chaos bringer. He's the guy that's gonna, you know, mess things up so that you can find a way to put it back together again. Like, maybe her whole thing is like, she's like human resources.
Right.
She's trying to cultivate like the best users of this interface. Like, she's like, you know, like, it could have been Keanu Reeves, it could have been anybody else,
Right.
but she's constantly throwing out challenges to try to find somebody who can work the system ultimately, because you see other like non-player characters, quote unquote, in the sequels, like those, like that French guy who just
The Merovingian.
yeah, he just you know what I'm saying, and his girlfriend, like they're all non.
And she's obviously got other like people, right, who are more talented than Neo. Like, you see them juggling things and bending spoons.
Like, these are my kids. She's like Charles Xavier, and like, these are my X-Men.
Right, she is like a Charles Xavier like character. Absolutely, she should go and fight the agents, and she can tell the future, so she's got one up on him.
Yeah.
Oh man, someone called Marvel.
Dubious.
What's up, Greg?
I was just thinking, like,
this is gonna happen.
well, what happens with her?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end, it turns out she's some big thing in movies 2 and 3. But if you just contain it to this movie,
Right.
she's just the person that introduces the concept of like mixed free will. So a lot of people think of free will as the ability to do anything, and then if you're somebody who believes the opposite, it's like everything you do is pre-programmed.
Right.
And I think most people, I don't know most people, but at least she does, and like there's a pretty common theory now that it's a mix. Like, all the decisions you make free will in your life are all are a process of you making them, and you're all the things that came before you.
Right.
So there's a little bit of pre-programming
It's like a
mixed.
choose your own
and there's-
adventure book.
Yeah, she's letting
Right.
you know there's cheese at the end of the maze.
But she introduces that part of like the idea of like mixed free will. Like, you do have free will. You're not completely controlled, but definitely things have happened before you, and you're like a
Right.
process of
Causality.
But that's the concept that makes people, like, the people who have that kind of thought in their head are the people who want to get out of the Matrix in the first place.
Right.
So, like, Neo is seeking, like, free will. Because that's why he wants to get out of the Matrix in
Right.
the first place. That's why they're looking for those kind of people.
So-
whereas the regular cows are just
So does
moving
the
around.
Spoon Kid not want to get out?
He does want to get out.
Does he though?
They all
Yeah,
do.
he seems sort of at
He's
peace,
already
like-
out.
Are you
like-
sure? Because
yeah,
he's kind of like I know what's popping, and I can like bend this to my will. Why would I leave?
So
Yeah.
that was another question that I had kind of thought about. So if there are people in the Matrix that kind of have this understanding that they can move time and space and reality, then what would happen if everybody knew that they were like a battery in a box, but they were living in the Matrix? Then you'd have everybody bending spoons, and there'd be no spoons.
Spoon benders.
No spoon.
The Matrix
There
spinoff.
are no spoons.
The Matrix spin-off.
That would be a
Mega
great.
spoon.
Matrix
Wait, is every
universe.
Didn't
is
we
every
come up with a
superhero
good
movie
movie
just a
last
spin-off of
Yes.
Matrix then?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
everybody is
I mean,
just
Tony Stark.
bending the spoon.
Spoon bender.
he hints at,
Chris Evans.
he hints
Spoon
at this.
bender.
I think, what's his
Go
name?
ahead.
Morpheus says that there's a lot of people that know they're in the Matrix.
Right.
And figure it out.
Yeah.
He's like, we don't normally bring them out because when they're your age, you're too old. Because it's like too much of a psychic break for you.
Right.
These are kids. So, like, they're the ones that, like, recognize that they have special powers, which is just inside the Matrix an ability to do things.
Sure.
And they are getting ready, presumably, to be the other kind of people that are like the other people in the Like this is the place that he takes people.
Right.
He might have, it very well been, Morpheus might have put the kid with the spoon in there.
Right. How
That's-
many people has Morpheus brought before?
Yeah, if you're trying to recruit like pod people
Yeah.
to become hovercraft people, they have to go through some sort of like deconditioning so they don't just die.
Oh
Yeah,
snap!
is
Oh,
it implied
that's
that-
crazy. So
is it-
Neo became like the leader of the Squiddies.
Well,
In a way.
Neo was just old. He was old before he found him.
Yeah. They
And
say we
made a
don't
big
usually
deal out of
free
it.
a
They said,
mind this
you might not
old.
survive this.
Right.
Because it's so like, but the younger kids, that makes why they're all younger kids there.
Wait,
Because that's the kind of people you want to leave.
Is Neo Anakin Skywalker?
Yeah,
He's too
he's
old
Darth
to begin the
Vader.
training.
Yes,
Darth
it's the exact
Vader.
principle. You
Bringing
can't
balance to
train
the
somebody,
Force.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, it's a lot of authority to give somebody that
It's
old.
the whole balance.
Yeah.
That's true with
But
all
also,
it's just
when
been
they-
perpetuating. And again, this is what this movie is. It's taking that savior myth and bringing it into this modern technological age.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this movie's doing, and that's what the technology and culture part of this is.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this is the Jesus story,
Sure.
sure, or the savior story.
Because he sort of
The
gets
savior
reborn.
story
He gets
for
reborn.
our digital age. Is this guy?
Right. Well, it definitely uses like the hero's journey, right?
It's a very
It's like
strong
the mono myth, right? All stories are one story kind of thing.
The death and
The
rebirth.
death and rebirth, right? The entry into a strange new world, the rejection of the call, right? Yeah, like it. And from a screenwriting standpoint, a storytelling standpoint, like yes, all right, and that's one of the things that makes this film universal in terms of its appeal. Neo's monotone, robotic, whatever, right, is like that blank slate that we project ourselves on, or try to.
And he literally re-enters his world having changed for his adventure. It is like a textbook monomyth.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I'm gonna show you all, and flies
like,
away.
where it's like the manifestation of what he thinks he looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
His self-image, absolutely.
Also, like with the either you or Morpheus is going, either Neo or Morpheus is going to die. It sort of reminds me of like Men in Black, where like where there is death, there will always be death.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of thing.
Okay, sure. What is dead can never die. That's a Game of Thrones, right? Game of Thrones next week, people. Set your DVRs.
So
Yes, sir.
At Maid.
That made.
At Maid. Game of Thrones.
Jamie, RSVP. Miss Jamie Lynn.
Or Ben the New.
So are we doing like after shows every week and come on.
I mean, we can talk about it.
Dina,
with Game
Dina.
of Thrones coming
Yeah.
up,
Make it happen.
I actually have a dog. I have a dog
Game of
named after
Thrones
one of the
after
dire
shows.
wolves.
It's nice. That's cool.
I'm not even kidding.
Dina's gonna give me a you're off topic glare soon, I think, right?
Speaking of
Yeah.
free will,
Yes, sir.
uh,
There was no segue, huh? I'm just trying to redirect. I like it. I appreciate
so
that.
speaking of free will,
Yes, sir.
I feel that we're sort of confusing freedom of will with freedom of agency.
Okay.
They often describe the Matrix as a prison, which is stronger freedom of agency. You're not allowed to physically do something you don't want to. If you step out of line, the agents will push you back in.
Yeah.
But the freedom of will philosophical question goes way beyond the simulation. So it's easier to think about it in a simulation where everything's discretized. So if I'm putting an airplane in the sky and I want to see how this wing works, you have to simulate millions and billions of little points of air. But if I start with the same air and hit simulate, every time it will come out with the same result. So now if we went back in time 60 bajillion years into the past with the same primordial soup, would I have tried to make that same segue going back into the future again? If we'd start from the same conditions, would I still be trying to explain what I didn't have anything to say about?
That's interesting.
And that's, to me, that's the more freedom of will rather than just freedom of agency.
Agency.
Freedom to like physically do and interact with the world the way you see fit.
I like that.
It comes down to like the predetermination of him knocking the vase over. Was he always going to say that also?
Right. Does he always knock the vase over each time also? It's cool. Easy question. Yeah, so what's the Matrix? And I know what the Matrix is in this movie, but this movie resonates with people. Right? So like what's this movie trying to say we're stuck in? Right? We're trapped in? Anything? Or is that just us reading into the film?
Well, I mean, we're totally not.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You left your seats. You have to be in your seat. You're either petting the dog or you're having the conversation with us.
This kid is going to invent a robot that takes away your job.
I am always
I
very nice
actually
to machines.
agree.
I speak lovingly to them. I find they work better when you do that. Like plants respond to your oxygen. You'll see.
Well,
But what do we think? Yeah.
so, like, I just think that the machines kind of created the Matrix because they needed something, like, they were having this war with humans, as they said, and it was causing too much destruction.
Yeah.
They needed a place to put the humans.
No. I understand that. No.
Where they couldn't
But-
do anything worse.
But that's the Matrix in the movie. I'm saying, what is our Matrix? What is this movie trying to say is really our Matrix? Because movies are trying to show us something about our lives and our cultures. All right, so what's our Matrix? Except for the Matrix you guys are trying to convince us that we're in. Like, I'm asking, what is that? Like, is it you have to get a job and go to work and make money and pay bills and pay taxes and then die? Is that the Matrix? Is life the Matrix? What do you think?
I think it's kind of like we can't have this kind of ideal place, this perfect world. We have to like accept that parts of reality are this grim and dark, ugly place.
Yeah.
And as long as we can kind of find balance between the two of them, you can be your best self.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of like what Neo is kind of doing. He walks between worlds.
Yeah.
And and just we have to accept all of that dark world with it.
Yeah. You need to go on
Make
road
the best of
trips with your gray sweatshirt, wearing friends, your buddies, and leave, the city or whatever. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think he's trying to. What I gathered was that it's sort of an anti-mediocrity movie.
Okay.
So like Neo's the one; he's the highest level.
Yeah,
Of getting
super
above
special.
I mean, they think so little of ordinary humans in this that, he walks into the lobby of that thing with the gun.
Oh my God,
and he
yeah.
just kills
He
hundreds
kills
of people,
so many
and those are
innocent people.
that don't
That's a
know
monster.
that they're in the Matrix. They are actually going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Their Matrix self is going to die, and they don't really think anything of them. Like these people are murderers. They kill everybody all the time. They don't care, and the movie doesn't really care about those people. It's really trying to elevate like you're either a person in the pool or you're a special person. You're
Yeah.
somebody who's capable of thinking enough to know that you're in a loop.
Yeah, you're the
And those are
brainwashed
the only
sheep.
people that even count as people.
Yeah.
Actually, having rewatched it before, I noticed that the place that he works at, that Neo works at, in the beginning of the movie, the name of the company on the site is like Mediocre Chicks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
boss sounds like Mr. Smith too.
A little
The boss
bit.
of the
Like
man
mediocre.
Sounds like Mr. Smith.
It's the establishment.
It's his literal like mediocre job.
Yeah.
Like Into Tech from Office Space.
Yeah. Absolutely. Go ahead.
I've always thought of it as sort of a creation myth.
Okay.
Like the idea, like, cause like a lot of people, like you go through life, and a lot of times you don't think about like why are we here, or how did we get to this point, like as a society, like how are we the dominant species on this planet, like how did we create this, like what truly does separate us from the animals, and this, like, it's like the idea that this was all a construct of something else, and Neo is this figure that gets to kind of walk between this world and this afterlife, and he's like shepherding people like Morpheus, and he's like literally shepherding people from this first phase where you're basically walking through this closed loop, this malaise, and then you can die or you're just brought onto this new thing, and it's just like, holy cow, we our purpose, like what we thought of was our purpose, we have to now find a totally different one.
Sure.
Like everybody in the Matrix thought that they essentially had it figured out, and if you are pulled out of that, you are now thrust into something, like usually as an adult, because I mean for the most part the people that they pull out of there are grown people. They're not just they're not pulling kids out of pods. That wasn't the plot of the movie. Like they're everybody who's been pulled out of there with plugs is an adult, and they're just like, we had to figure out what it means to be human all over again. And that's kind of crazy. Like that's why I always think like, would I really want to be out of that? Like would I want to be ripped from that? Like everything that I knew, and then it's like you have the rest of your biological life. Like let's say you're like 20 something. And it's just like now you just gotta figure it all out again. And it's just not what you thought it was.
But isn't that what life is in a lot of ways? It's like thinking you know it all, and then realizing you had no idea. The more I know, the more I know, the more I know nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Is Plato, right? Or Aristotle, somebody Greek, right?
I think there's also the thing where like they give you the option of the red pill or the blue pill.
Sure.
Everything or go back to your own life.
Ignorance is bliss, or
how many
suffer with the
of
truth.
the people, like you saw them, and as you said, they killed like hundreds of people. How many of those people were attempted to given the red or the blue pill? And they take the blue pill, they don't remember any of this.
Yeah,
That's right.
The movie doesn't think highly of blue pill people
But
at
the,
all.
Right,
the
no.
thing is that
Not at
Morpheus
all.
and the other people will remember those people. But they won't. They will remember meeting somebody, saying take the red pill or the blue pill, and then 3 seconds later shooting them.
Sure. Because they're not people.
There is a
Because
supervillain
they
mentality
don't
with that.
classify them
Yeah.
as people, even though
Yeah.
mentally they are people, physically they are people.
It's worse
But
than that.
they're just literally pigs to the slaughter. When
Because you could become an agent. Like it's
Yeah.
more than that. They're
Yeah.
like if we leave you in here, you're just persona non grata because at some point you're gonna morph into a thing and whip out a gun and shoot one
Yeah.
of us. So it's fine. Like
Yeah.
we're totally cool with that. Like
I think
Yeah.
part of what you were trying to get at also with saying, like, what does it say about our society? kind of
Sure,
thing.
yeah.
I think it's also that we shouldn't just accept certain things that are told to us. We should kind of take that extra step to, like, learn what the truth is and then make our decisions based on that.
Sure.
And just not just follow blindly. Just think about, like, you know, politics and everything like that. It's all kind of that same kind of story. Just like figure out what it is first, find out what is real and the truth, and then make your decision. And don't just believe what people are just telling you.
Yeah, and we brought up before the idea, like the question, like how do you know what's real, or like it's learning, knowledge, truth. All of that is experiential and it is subjective. It is going to be different for me, for everybody else in the room, right? The idea of objective truth, like in a postmodern like age, is there is none, right? It's shattered, it's fragmented, it's disjuncted and chopped up. And you've got to think for yourself. You've got to go out there and find your truth, whatever that might be. I just can't figure out, like, what is it telling me, like, I'm trapped in, like, what is the loop, the cycle, and maybe it's the question that drives us. This movie resonated with me for that reason, where it's like, I feel like I'm in a matrix, not the matrix, right, but a matrix, and what matrix could that be? So you don't have to answer. You're not my therapist. But, this is what I'm grappling with as I'm watching this movie. I'm like, I think I'm Neo, right? Like, it's gotta be. That's what they told me. They gave me a trophy. Yeah.
There was also something that I saw, which was the stages of philosophy, and it said, what is he doing? And the first stage of philosophy, what is he? What is, and what? Like, they start delving into, like if you look at the philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, they start delving into like crazy stuff. They were thousands of years ahead of us, but they were thousands of years before us.
Yeah, like calculus was invented 3,000 years ago or something. We're still using that.
Yeah,
like a lot of it.
It was crazy, and I still have no idea how there are so many smart people back then, and now we have.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
statistically, the literacy rate is higher than it was back then, but
Still, literacy
reading isn't everything.
is. Yeah, I mean, we have that generation that grew up with the hoverboards and fidget spinners. So that's a That's my
I
response to
imagined
us.
real hoverboards when he said that, and I was
That's
like,
why I
wait,
hate
what
them so much.
generation
Back
was
to the
that?
Future, you're like,
Yeah.
And then I realized they
No,
they
it was
have
the-
hoverboards, but they don't really
It was
hover.
the
Yeah.
people who
No, I get it. Yeah.
created the hoverboard and called it a hoverboard, when meanwhile it's just a Segway with no handle.
Sure. Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
they want it to sound like we're in the future, and whenever you say a hoverboard, everybody gets excited because it's a hoverboard.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, and like
as soon as they see it, it's just literally two wheels and just.
They're lying to us. It's the Matrix all over again.
Again, like
Well,
Matrix.
well, that's
That's
like,
chaos.
I like in ancient Greece they like
Sure.
invented a steam engine but then like nobody really got interested in it.
Mhm.
So it sort of like got forgotten.
And
And
then
then
later.
So then nothing happened.
Right.
And like in ancient Greek there was a steam engine but nobody was really interested in it and so it got forgotten.
Right. No, that's very true. And like often but we think there are barriers in our lives, right? The 4-minute mile, right? No one could break it, and then it was broken, and then people were killing it all the time and shaving milliseconds off of it. There was another example that escapes me, so go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say that I do think that there is a point to be made about the hoverboard and the fidget spinner
Oh
because
man.
no, because I mean,
Go ahead.
do you have one?
Nope.
Do you have a fidget spinner?
Nope.
You
What
want
about
one?
you,
We got
Ryan?
some.
I have
Damn
like 50
good.
fidget spinners, right?
What?
So, but it's true of all things. Like, why do I buy these fancy sneakers? Why do you have awesome Doc Martens over there? Like, we're constantly being told to do certain things. So in a way, media and marketing and, in essence, mind control does exist.
Mm.
And to me, I am living in the matrix by people telling me what to do, what to consume, how to consume.
Mhm.
Gucci. I had 3 girls in my store today painting Gucci bags.
Yeah.
They painted their own bags and they said Gucci. Why?
Supreme.
Yes.
Why?
Supreme advertising.
I mean, I think that's a really good point because, like, people who feel like Neo and the hackers are people who are not too removed from us, despite maybe the computer skills, like where there's some kind of level of unsatisfaction with life or society, right? And that's because the society is giving us messages about what will make us happy and what we need and what we should want.
Well, the scary thing is it's not necessarily society.
Yeah.
There are people
Yeah.
that decide what society wants and then they tell us what we want and then we want it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird. to think
The
of.
la le lu le lo.
Well, yeah, first the
Yeah.
celebrities
She
want
says
it, and
we're
then
gonna wear
that's
green
like,
next
oh,
year.
hey,
Yeah.
got it.
Mhm.
We did that.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think a lot of stories like this, like I think of this and I think of, I don't know if anybody's watched the show Westworld.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of where these things come from is like the anxiety that comes from being comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, how many times have you gotten to a Friday and gone, holy crap, like, it was just Monday. Like, I blinked
Right.
and it was Monday. Like, I was just miserable and annoyed.
And 2 days before, you were saying, "Man, this is such a long
Like,
week."
So
Yeah.
the whole, you know, like the whole thing with the Matrix is like, at what point did somebody, you know, turn around and go, like, man, life is just a little too easy,
Mm-hmm.
a little too mundane, a little too,
Yeah.
like the loop is a little too closed, and like that's what happened on Westworld. Like, it's the inversion of the Matrix.
Yeah.
Like like to get into the premise of it a little bit, it's like it's a theme park where people pay exorbitant amounts of money to go live in a setting where, you know, it's the Old West, and there are robots that basically play characters, and you know there's kids in here, but there's a brothel and all those other things, and so eventually the robots gain sentience. Like, if you think of like junk files or junk data when you defrag your hard drive, those experiences basically became memories that started to mess with them and caused them to realize, like, there's things that we've experienced that we don't remember, and then they rise up and take over the park. And the original book was written by Michael Crichton, who created Jurassic Park. We were here last talking about it.
Yep.
So it's this similar sort of theme of, you know, except it was more personal with Westworld in the sense that, like, at what point do we not just question the get up, the grind, the go to sleep, the get up, the grind, to go to sleep, because that's all the robots were for. and then they you know started to have feelings and build relationships and like adopted other robots as their own kids and basically became people.
Yeah.
And so like the agents are basically doing this. Like you know, the Oracle has her kids who she's supposedly caring about and cultivating, and Smith has his own agenda and ideas, and he's said, I just want to be loved, I just want to be cared about, like I don't want to have to deal with you guys' stink. Like what is clean your own mess. Like maybe we could live together if you guys didn't screw this up.
Yeah, no. It's a really good idea. Did you miss?
That was very good. Sorry, but I'm going to a different point, which kind
Yeah,
of
what's that?
joins with Jamie about what our matrix is and what we're living is like.
Gucci.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
The Gucci Matrix.
But Neo, prior, like his first encounter with Trinity, she's like, you've been asking this question this whole time about his mundane existence and whatever, and I think it is just a point of like knowing that there's something that's not right and not following through, not acting on it, and not trying to manifest your destiny. And it's just like as soon as you make those steps towards finding that answer and like actively stepping out of that routine, then all of this is going to come to light, and you'll see the true.
Yeah, and it's once Neo is told he's not the one, that he's free to actually be the one, right? Like he's free to have more like belief in himself.
But he knew about the Matrix before knowing about the Matrix.
Right.
We know sometimes in our lives that something's not right before we know exactly what it is, and then make that change. So
Yeah.
it's just like acting on those things, and like we are in the Matrix if we're not pursuing our destiny.
Right, but that's oh, okay. All right, you mean more personally. I'm asking, are there really like these puppet master things? Is that what we think? Like, you guys tell me this is a safe place. Like,
I totally
is the game rigged or like what? Like, let's articulate it. We'll turn the cameras off.
On your Facebook feed.
Yeah.
That are posting things.
Yeah.
Have you talked to any of them? Even somebody that's like a relative. Do you ask them, did you post this every time? Maybe 1 out of every 20, 1 out of every 1,000 posts that that a dear friend has made was not your dear friend. How would you be able to tell? He was an agent.
Okay.
Now I'm thinking
I
about
guess that's
celebrity
true.
culture, and like
Yeah, like everything's Simone. You ever see the movie Simone with Al Pacino? She wasn't real. She was a computer. Go ahead.
no, like I mean, you think of the I thought of sort of what Dina said. I'm thinking of like celebrity culture and like this sort of high achieving, status based culture that we live in. Like, Beyonce could be the one.
Yeah.
Like, Beyonce just goes through life doing what she does. Like, if she wants to just jet set off to a place, she can do it. She's the master of her own reality.
Right.
Right? Like, she's technically manifested her destiny in a way that very few people on this planet can, right? Like, she has people following her every whim. Like, Trump is he's not popular. Like, he might not be popular in this room, but there's people that love the crap out of Trump.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, he has, you might say he was born on third base, but, there are plenty of people born on third base that don't become president of the United States, that don't just flat out slap their name on everything they want, and people celebrate. Like, before he was president, he was celebrated for stuff like that. Like, people thought he was cool. He was a branding genius, a marketing genius. Like, it's, like, maybe that's another thing that the Wachowskis were talking about. Like, the idea that, like, there's a subclass of people that we've created called, celebrities, and they are the ones. Like, they just do whatever they want.
Don't you think that Neo takes the red pill because Morpheus was a celebrity to him?
Yeah.
He's
a fanboy for Morpheus.
He's a fanboy for Morpheus.
He's asleep and Morpheus is on his computer.
And he's
Yeah.
like, well, these cool guys have taken the
Morpheus
red
has
pill,
an
so
entourage. He doesn't drive his own car if he doesn't want to. Like,
I thought you were a guy.
he
Yeah.
does what he wants.
If he had no clue who they were, wouldn't he? Maybe
When
he
they
would
go
take
back to
them
visit the Oracle, they pass like his neighborhood. He's like, oh, I used to eat there.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
before.
There's also
before I
the
blew up.
fact that when he gets picked up by Trinity and everybody,
Yeah.
he's not there. He's waiting somewhere else. He's just bring him to me. Like, just I don't care.
Yeah.
Wait for him.
What?
Like Morpheus sent his emissaries to
Yeah.
go get
Yeah.
the guy that's
Well,
supposed to be the
maybe it was
Messiah.
too dangerous for him.
It's too dangerous.
Nah,
This is,
no.
Public enemy number one.
Morpheus, because the Oracle literally said Morpheus will die for you. So no, that's kind of
Maybe he was
interesting.
working.
Morpheus is kind of feeling himself a little bit.
I see it.
I mean, we were feeling him too. I mean, look at him.
So shady.
Yeah.
His shades
Those are
hold
some cool
himself
shades.
up. He's got a Duracell
Clip-on
sponsor.
shades
He
over
don't
here.
need us.
I remember being very impressed with the sunglasses in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how like they stay on the face without.
So, like, could The Matrix be a critique of our, like, celebrity culture? And the answer is you just gotta, like, do your thing? Is that what we're saying then? Not go to work and do your job, right? But quit your job and follow your dream?
Don't
Like,
go
and
into the Kim Kardashian culture. Just be a person. Don't
Be a
try.
person.
Don't try and be anybody else.
okay. So don't try to be a
Because
celebrity.
like, look at the way they dress, right?
Yeah.
They purposely like.
They dress like Batman,
They
kind of.
dress
yeah.
they're just like, look at us. Watch us as we walk down the street. Look at us as we get into our
Yeah.
car with the butterfly doors.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, what is happening?
It's like hiding in plain
Honestly,
sight.
You could choose. You go back into the Matrix. You could choose anything. Aren't you gonna choose like
Yeah.
an awesome outfit and like awesome hair too?
Yeah.
Well, like video games, that's kind of what people do, right? They're like, oh man, I got this cool weapon for my character, or a helmet.
Your character was awesome.
Yeah, or an afro and
My
big
dude looked like a
glasses.
clown.
Yeah, there you
Going
go.
on his head.
Go ahead, Greg.
At least in this movie, I think the Matrix could just be anything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a specific outside Matrix. It's really in your mind.
Yeah,
Everybody plugs themselves into their own larger world and just sort of drifts through it.
yeah,
And those are the bad people in this. Not the bad people, the non-existent people.
right.
And if you just elevate yourself outside of like your ordinary existence, it's more about like your own mental prison.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it
like
doesn't-
that.
like there's celebrity
This is the
culture now.
Matrix.
There was culture. There was religious culture in the Middle Ages. There was philosopher. I don't know what culture was happening when they wrote that Simulacra book, the first
Yeah.
time. And the
It's
whatever.
lots of parties,
There's always
drinking
been a
poison
larger
wine.
structure in charge of a smaller group of a larger group
Right.
of people, smaller group on top.
Haves and the have-nots.
Right, but-
for Marx.
So that drifts all through time, but in
The
this movie,
Illuminati.
the people that are the
bourgeoisie.
the low end of on the spectrum are people just don't elevate themselves, whatever it is,
Yeah.
whatever the matrix is that's pushing you down or keeping you at some sort of average level. Those are the people that are disposable in this.
Yeah.
Neo, like
They're sheep. you know?
he finds a little bit of free will and decides he wants to elevate himself
Yeah.
in any capacity. He just
Quite
wants
literally.
to learn more. He wants to know more. It doesn't matter that where he gets to is awful,
Right.
because at least he's alive and above the ordinary. So I mean that's why like it doesn't no matter how bad the real world slop eating living in a sewer is better than somebody eating steak in a restaurant in the Matrix.
Because at least that's.
Because at least it's
yeah.
like you've elevated yourself above a crowd. The celebrity, that's why they're the celebrities are the people who got out of the Matrix in this. In the movie, the movie highlights those people. They're the heroes.
Yeah,
Not-
and we're
not
very
the-
much in like a woke culture like moment at this point, and like waking up from the Matrix. It's a wake up call, you know. Like it's not the first film to do it, but it's definitely like one that makes it like more popular in recent years, in the last 20. Yeah, someone was gonna say something. Well, no.
Well, I'm sad that nobody got my reference earlier.
I'm sure we got it.
The
Go ahead.
deja vu
Yeah.
earlier.
What?
Oh, I didn't hear you.
I said there's a glitch. We were just across the room.
Oh, I didn't even hear it.
Like when I
didn't
was
say
talking about
deja
the
vu
steam
twice.
engine
Yes.
with the.
Oh, you did. Okay, you said
Yeah.
it twice. I just thought you were repeating because you didn't think anybody heard you.
Nope.
My bad.
I got it.
It's because you're sitting over there in the corner. I couldn't hear you.
Sunday heard
Not you,
this.
Sometimes like you got a problem.
Okay.
Sunday's like,
Um,
he's not moving.
We are.
Mine now.
We're at the part of the evening where we can, not like we haven't been talking about anything anyway, but like we can talk about whatever you want with this film, because we have 13 minutes left, so we can like open it up to questions, comments, ideas, whatever you want to do.
One thing that happened really interesting to me recently was unrelated to all the topics in it, but the actual use of the film technology. We just saw this in the movie theater, and you know the part where he goes into the white room?
Yeah.
So I've seen this
Construct,
movie a lot.
right?
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
construct. I've seen this movie a lot of times at home, and it doesn't really, it just, the screen changes. But when you're in a movie theater, it's all black, the whole theater's black. When that scene comes on, and the whole entire wall turns white, the entire audience lights up. and it completely, you could see everybody in the audience, and it completely changes your perspective of like the movie theater where you're sitting, like the construct's supposed to do. So I want to ask them if that was on purpose, like for people in the movie theater, because it was a really jarring thing to see when it happened in the theater, and I've seen that scene probably 20 times, and I've never thought about that before. Until you saw it in the theater, I'm like, oh, look at that.
I wonder if that was purposeful or not, because like we talked about the fourth wall before, right? The fourth wall is the thing that separates the audience from the artifice, right? The movie. The fifth wall is what separates me from you while we're watching that, you know? And like to then become aware of, like at the end of the movie, the lights come on, you're like, oh, other people were here, I forgot.
Right.
So to make someone physically aware of the people around them, remind them that they're sitting next to people having similar but yet distinct experiences is a really interesting idea. And I want to say that they did that on purpose, but...
Yeah, that make them, like, you know, pretty aware of what they were doing in a theater box, but I'm just saying, when it happened, and I noticed
That's
it,
cool.
where I was like, because that's also the part in the movie where you're supposed to realize you're in a construct.
Yeah.
Like, that's the part where they explain to the audience that, you know, we're all just in the Matrix together.
Yeah.
And there you are in the room together.
Sure.
And you're all sitting there in a big white room. It's really bright. It's almost like they shut the movie theater lights. They turned the movie theater lights on for that scene.
Yeah.
And then everything gets dark for the entire rest of the movie. So
That's really cool.
Oh, they turned the lights back on?
No, it got so bright on the big screen that it was like
Because I had never seen it in a theater. So
well, when the whole wall turns white, it lights the whole theater up. So it's like, oh, then it's almost like he turned the lights on in the theater.
Huh.
It'd be like the functional equivalent of a white screen. I mean, I don't know. There are other movies that do stuff like that, but you could ask them. I guess.
I've learned most of things in life first from movies, and then again realizing, man, it wasn't like they said it was in the movies. So like again, when I like talk about the Matrix with like students and stuff, that's definitely trying to like articulate, like we go through these moments where you think you got it all figured out and then you don't, right? You think it's real and it's a dream, right? Like you think you understand love and then you have your heart broken, right? You think you know what death is and then like someone your age dies for the first time, right? And like these are all like things that can change how you look at the world and change how you make your reality. Yeah.
So I usually, whenever I'm a horror fan, so I usually overcalculate the absolute crap out of things.
Like
So-
you know where the exits are right
yeah,
now
and
in
I
case of
always-
zombies.
Yeah, and I always
That's the only one that one leads.
yeah, when I always look at the movies, I always look like that guy's wearing level 2 body armor that will not stop this kind of bullet, but this guy's firing this kind of bullet. That would go through the armor, but that's not how that works.
Be nice to this young gentleman.
So
Treat him well.
when I watched the original part of this when they're sieging the lobby, I was like, that's not even possible because this movie magic. But if you actually take the time to look at it, this guy's wearing a paper thin little layer of probably ceramic, and he's taking point blank shotgun blasts.
Yeah, but I
Literally, just
mean,
some dudes-
you've accepted that robots have put us in a dream world. You can't get hung up on like that bullet wouldn't go through that armor.
Like
It's Matrix bullets. They use a form of fusion. Like, it's fine.
after I'd gone
Maybe
like on
Sunday's an agent, and she's just here to keep us from thinking about the Matrix.
This kitty's
She's
got it
the
all
lady in the
figured
red
out.
dress.
She does look good in a red dress. You're right. Go ahead, sir.
After I'd gone on like a binge of like psychological thrillers,
The
I'd
youth
watched
today. Jeez, go ahead.
This
kind of
and
thing. What is
then I
going
watched
on?
a comedy, and I was like, oh, that happened. So I was like, anxious that guy was gonna die. But wait, it's a comedy, and don't think like that. It was just
That guy's about to get eaten by a zombie.
Yeah.
Wait, this is a comedy.
Yeah,
why
exactly.
why would he get eaten by a zombie?
Yeah.
Ah, that's what
Like a
laughter
clear
sounds
green
like.
nature, but then-
I had forgotten.
It's like hold on the next time he's alive in the next scene.
Yes.
Now that we're on comedy, and I'm just looking at the stiff in the bottom, you know, it's a
Yeah.
major part of the film, and you're really into it. And he's all, and he goes, "Oh well, I'll fight you with one hand behind my back." It was just so funny. It was very jarring. Really.
Yeah.
And no, but like that's great acting because you see Hugo's face
comedy.
change like 4 different times.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna kill you. He's like, this is harder than it should be. Then he's like, what the? Like he's just like, oh,
Why is this happening?
His jowls are
Yeah, he's like,
flapping. Yeah.
I killed you already.
I find it
Like,
funny
you see
too,
the
like how
holes in
Keanu
Will's
Reeves
chest.
just kind of like he switches once he like comes back like that, and he just like
I don't need to care.
he's like, oh,
I just
no.
stopped caring now.
It's like he's processing
like,
code
I
and
literally
stopping him at the
can't
same time.
It's the equivalent of a teenager playing video games. I shot you so many times already. Like, why didn't you die? Like, just
Plus, he just came back from the dead, so he's probably
Yeah.
processing that. What happened? I died?
Well, that was.
And Trinity told me
He's
I
like,
wasn't
hold on
dead?
a second. I need to
Yeah.
think about this for a second.
Wait, what is my
We're
existence?
just freeform right now. It's over, yeah.
I would like to know from the crowd, would you take the red pill?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you would.
Probably.
Hell yeah.
Wait, which one puts you back?
Red
pill is
I'm taking the blue.
I'd say a solid.
I'm taking blue.
Solid
I'm taking the
I
blue.
would take
I like
both.
Central Air.
Given the choice that he was
I
given,
didn't-
you
I
don't
like
know if
Central
you're
Air a
gonna
lot.
get
And the
two.
taste
I like-
of
Would you
beef.
still take it?
Yeah, like
True,
what?
but
Like
it's
what
very
the?
I would
No.
take both
implied
pills.
that
And I
you should
take it
make
into
it
No, that's not
so-
Yeah.
like,
It's not an option,
Like,
Everett.
Slap him.
Yeah.
A
It's not
Professor
an
Movie is
option.
what
You
you
know-
do. Pop them both in
Well,
one
who's
mouth.
giving me the pills? Because
Oh,
that's the whole
yeah.
thing was like, he was like,
Professor
It's that
Movies.
edgy guy who lives
Professor
next to you.
Movies?
Professor Movies.
Did ask Courtney if she
I
brought
wouldn't
them.
trust pills from
Awake at
a guy
3
named
in the
Professor
morning,
Movie.
Well, I think that's.
They're in my trunk. I'll give them
I
later.
feel like my life expectancy is higher as a pod person.
You should rub
I
it
feel
in
like
the
I feel like there's
candy.
universal
Go
health
down
care
all
as a
the
pod
vitamin
person.
C.
I feel like that's a thing that you get.
I think your life expectancy is higher if you don't take pills from a strange man.
Well, that's the. Would you take the
Yeah.
red pill or blue pill? Like, knowing what we saw after he took the red
Right.
pill.
or is it like the?
Because he doesn't
He's
show
still
you the
not
world
red
till
pill,
then.
But he didn't
But
know.
why
it
would
was
you
gonna
take a
happen.
pill from somebody who you just met?
He did know. He said if you take the red pill, you can't go back.
He said you can't go back, but he didn't know how. He didn't know he was going to be eating mush.
But he
Well, I
didn't
guess he
care.
did show him.
It
That's
wasn't
right.
explained that, yes, right now, you're stuck with a thing in your head in a pod.
No, it
Yeah.
And
wasn't.
then
It
you're
was.
gonna go down through this birthing process, be plucked out by a spaceship, taken off to live in the sewer.
Right. None of that was
Red-
explained.
And then you're gonna
Yeah.
throw up.
He's like blue pill. You
don't
wake
have
up in
to
your
do
bed.
it.
Red pill leap of faith.
No, but if
I would-
Morpheus
He did
told me
show
I
them.
was the
Like
John
that.
Connor of Matrix World, I'd be like, yeah, okay,
Yeah, give me
yes,
the pill.
absolutely, give me that pill.
Yeah.
I've known this all along.
And
The
he wasn't-
time is mine.
He wasn't completely blind. He did show him like what
Right.
humanity became. He just, you know.
Right.
show the
yeah.
rest of
I think some
humans
of us are a little
what
too
happened.
critical on Morpheus. I think
No,
that
that part was accurate.
That's
He
not
just
what-
finds
that's
out
not
what
at all.
human-
mixing universes, that's all.
Well, saying that he's the John Connor of this Matrix universe is like, it's just, he goes from trying to get killed to not trying to get killed to helping himself kill himself to helping himself kill his mother
Yeah.
to spiraling all over the place. I don't think Neo would do that.
I don't know. I like
Also,
again the chosen one archetype: Anakin Skywalker, John Connor, Thomas Anderson, and countless others. Right? Like, and we want to be that kind of person. Right? We want someone to tell us we're special. We want someone to tell us we're important, and then we want to like do great things. Does anybody disagree? Does anyone not want to do good things? I'll give you my therapist's number. Second therapy joke.
I do like the that once he
Seeing
wakes
the
up
code?
again, he sees things.
In code.
He looks beyond
Right.
the curtain kind of thing, and he sees it all.
Right, like all the colors we can't see because of the muscles in our eyes,
can't see
right? And
colors
like
at
if
all.
we were to see them for the first time, right,
Like roll your eyes.
it'd be completely different. Okay. Final thoughts?
It's a good movie.
I
like it.
I don't like this movie.
Shouldn't have made the sequence yet.
I love this movie
But I
because
like
it's
it.
a
Right
giant brain, like, literally the entire
makes
point
you
of it
think.
is to mess with your brain.
This-
And after you watch this movie, you literally, like, you sit down, you watch it, you stand up, and you just think, am I real?
Yeah.
Wait, Jamie, you didn't like it?
I don't like the Matrix.
Well,
Whoa!
I
Oh,
do
you, don't like
not-
the, you really don't like the movie?
I'm like, if
Okay.
think about it,
What? May I ask, like, what don't you like about it? And I'm not like attacking you. I'm just actually curious because I assumed everybody in this room was a fan.
I'm
I
a
know,
fan
right?
of this class.
Yeah.
thank you.
all right, I'm a fan of the philosophy behind it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, I saw it. I'm good now.
I guess
I can talk about the philosophy with it a lot, but
Yeah.
then just the movie itself, I'm just like, okay.
You notice I didn't
got it,
show you
know.
any action scenes, right?
Yeah.
Or bullet time or wire work, like even though we know that's great in it, but like, yeah, this was the first movie I think that like I recall making me think. And I think it had that effect and still has that effect on people now.
Like the
This is
soap where he
one of
blows
the-
up all the banks.
This is
What's-
one of the movies that people feel proud
Yeah.
to show their children.
Yeah.
Like there's like that sixth sense or
Case in
whatever,
point.
So-
where
But what
there's like
if-
the
but what
giant twist at the end.
But what
Yeah.
if you're already thinking like this? What
That's
if you
true.
had
What if you've read
gone
books?
To school? What if you've
Yeah.
read books?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
watching a movie like this for the first time, when I did watch it for the first time, I just remember being like, all right, I mean, I thought about that already.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's like, well, that's
Been there,
kind of
done
the
that.
thing. Like, this movie was inspired by a lot of like anime, like specifically things like Ghost in the Shell
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And a lot of people in this country had never been exposed to like yes, you get it in books, but like visual media that was giving you stuff like this didn't really happen. So this was groundbreaking in that regard, in like the sense that like sometimes you'd get like a John Woo film that was bringing over like visual stuff, but not so much like the philosophical stuff to go with it.
Right, and I totally appreciate this
Yeah.
this film as being that. It's just not for me.
No, I think that's fair.
For me, I feel like
Final thought, go sir.
for me, I feel like I'm in the mix of both of them because like with a lot of the fight scenes and the technology, all those like the spinning camera, the bullet time kind of stuff, I felt like that. I don't know if it's maybe me being like a film nerd type thing and stuff like that, but it took me out of it because I was thinking of it more technically, and I'm like, well, it's just, they're spinning around showing like the actions,
that's
like they're doing it
expensive.
because they could.
Right.
Like, they look at
But
this
it's
technology
really-
we have, and then I'm like, all right, get back to what's happening.
But
Yeah.
at the time, that was also to show them defying gravity. Like
Yeah,
it's
it
supposed
was-
to like amplify.
Yeah.
They're in a matrix. They know, like like Trinity's the one who's doing this because she knows there is no gravity. This is all made up. So that camera effect was created with purpose for that, to show that, to highlight that. So I have to say that like it's part of the matrix
Sure.
itself.
Yeah, no, and like again, like Hollywood's dependence on technology and the innovations in technology that come, right? Like this is one of those innovative films for those reasons. But there's definitely a shot in the first scene of the movie where Trinity jumps out a window and spins, and it does not look good. It does not look good at all. And when watching this film, like the action stuff is the stuff where I'm like, yeah, I could skip this right now. I want to see the pods, or I want to see, you know, the construct scene, or the, you know, like a lot of the action, like you get numb to it almost. But neither here nor there. Thanks, guys. We're gonna wrap it up. Thanks for coming here, being here, sharing your ideas, listening to each other, petting the dog, asking good questions. Yeah, I totally would take the red pill. I don't know, that's my Instagram. That's a cartoon I drew of me. And next week, in honor of, what's next week? Memorial Day? Oh, it's May? All right, so I don't know. I think
First Friday in May.
May the 4th be with you. We can watch Star Wars if you're interested. Star Wars movie about cyborgs.
Wait.
Movie about giant weapons. Yeah.
If you already had that slide there, why did you pause so long to think about it?
Because he went backwards instead of forwards.
What are you giving
by
me script
accident.
notes here?
No, because he was trying to pull a reference into the fact that it was May, so.
Or is he trying to be like the Oracle and kind of give us the illusion?
Once
that
again.
this is-
How do we know that you did not have another slide?
Stop stealing the man's stuff.
What you don't realize is behind that wall, they're editing all this on the fly. Right? They're putting in. My dad said if you have to explain why the joke's funny, it's not funny. I'm like, sorry, I'll try better next time.
I'm sorry, I was trying to be the one, not the many.
Thanks for coming, guys. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Just a few things. LMC-TV has launched today a survey, and we put it on our website. We put it on our social media. Please take this survey. It's a community assessment survey, so it applies to each and one of you to give us feedback to learn how we can better serve you in the future. This is something that's not just for you guys. Also share it with everyone, because even people who know nothing about LMC-TV, those are definitely the people we want filling out this survey to know how to reach them and serve them. So please take the time. It's about 10 minutes for the survey, but it's easily acceptable on our website. If you're on our mailing list, it's in your email right now, okay? So please go ahead, click it, share it, and do all that stuff. And thank you, Kevin, one more time.
Yay.